Hello Internet, it's Eric, JediSkills173, 3FG_Inc, depending on what section of the Internet this is coming to you from. I wanted to make a video about the RPG that I'm making, and here's some of the points that I put together. This is the first video I've done really on it since I've been working a lot on it. So the new game is initially going to be for iOS 4.0 Plus devices only. That means that 3GS class or better hardware is required for it. That means that the iPad can run it, the iPhone 3GS, the iPod Touches based on the 3GS will run it, the iPhone 4 will run it, and the iPhone 4 class iPod Touches can run it. Everything older than about July 2009 will not be able to run it because it lacks the SGX graphics hardware that these devices have, and won't even be able to run the binary. Now after I'm done with that version, however, I'm also, due to the really flexible engine I'm using, I'll also be able to make an Android port of it. This is a Motorola Droid, the first one. And this is pretty much the slowest device running Android that will be able to run the game as well. So if you have something of this performance class or better, then it will be able to run the Android port. And after that is a PC and Mac version. Same deal with the engine. I can just change a few settings and output the same game for PC or Mac. And once that's more towards completion, I'm going to send it off to Steam and see if I can get it on Steam, because that's the preferred distribution method I'd like to use for it. And then after that, or possibly even before it, is making a version for pre-3GS class devices. I'd have to change some of the graphics settings I'm using and do a bit more fiddling with it, because performance is really key on devices like that. But it is a large part of the market, and I would like to make a version for that. So if you have old, slow devices, then there's a very good chance I'll make a version for that too. Let's see. For the iOS devices, meaning the Apple portables, it's going to be a single app on the store. If you bought it for the iPhone or iPod, you also own it for the iPad. This, I think I made a mistake with my first game, Elective Immortality, in segmenting it into 4 different apps when it was essentially the same game for all of them. So now from the ground up, I'm building it to be one free client that when you get it, you can install it on any of the compatible devices for the version that you bought. So if you bought the standard version on the iPhone and you bought the DLC for it, that unlocks the rest of the game. I'll talk about that in a second. You can also download it on your iPad, on your iPhone 3GS, and you'll have access to all that content. You only bought it once, but you can play it on any of those devices. Let's see. So the first, I mentioned the client itself is free. So the first 15% or so of the game is absolutely free. You get it when you download the game. And the rest is, in effect, downloadable content. I put in-app purchases, so when you're in the main game menu, there's going to be another option there for downloadable content. And once you go there, it'll take you to a separate mini store, and it'll allow you to make a purchase. It won't be expensive to download and unlock code for the rest of the game. The entire game will already be included in that in the download for the client. It'll just be locked away until you buy the DLC. I did that for 2 reasons. One is to deter piracy, because if I just have another separate version that has a full game that can be easily just downloaded by pirates off of Cydia or whatever, and I'm missing out on all that. As far as I know, there's no way to crack this in-app purchase thing. And 2, I actually forgot what 2 was, but it's something along the lines of I didn't want people to run into problems downloading stuff from one of my servers. Yeah, that's what it was. Because if I had it downloaded separately the rest of the game after you bought it, I'd have to host it from my own servers, and that can be really flaky. So I'd rather have everything be on Apple's side. And when you make that purchase, I don't see any of the transaction stuff. What it does is I tell the Apple Store that, hey, this person wants to buy this, they handle all the financial transactions, and then they return to me saying, okay, they bought it, unlock the stuff. So there's no privacy concerns or anything there. And besides the rest of the game, there's also going to be extras, and I'll talk about that too here. I'm putting in Game Center support, which is a big reason why iOS 4.0 and above devices are required to play this. So there's going to be support for achievements in the game, and also leaderboards for some of the extra content. I'll go into that more detail in another video, because that's still being worked out, but I do have support for that stuff there, if and when I will use it. Now, kind of a sticky point here, but iAds will be in some of the menus. Most notably the initial set of main menus when you first load the game. I'm adamant about this, they will not be in the way during gameplay. You'll not see them if you're doing a battle, if you're in a really pivotal cutscene, you will not see ads there. You will see them in the main menu and possibly in like the if you're in the field and you go to the menu where you have all your characters and items, you may see an ad there, but it won't be anything that will be in your face all the time, because I know how bad that can be if you have them there, and it detracts from the experience. But I gotta get paid too, folks, and I'm still undecided as to whether they'll be there for purchasers of the entire game or not. But let's put it this way, one click on an iAd will be nearly as much revenue for me as I'm planning to make the purchase price of the rest of the game. So we'll see. There might even be an extra in-app purchase for removing iAds. I don't know, give me your feedback on that. I would like to know. So that's that for the back-end system stuff. I as yet do not have a title for this project. I know that a name is a big deal for a project. It makes it more real than something TBA or unnamed, but I'm still working on that. I think I made a mistake with Elective Immortality. I made that name too long. I ran into problems shortening it because you can only have so many characters on the main iPod menu screen. So we'll see about that. It is set in the greater Elective Immortality universe, but it's largely unconnected for now. I have a plan for 4 games in this universe, and then at least one in the more science fiction Elective Immortality universe. This will be the first in a set of the fantasy themed ones. The setting is similar to like the Spira sections of Final Fantasy X. I'll give you sort of a rough idea of the style I'm going for here. And gameplay is split between overworld exploration, NPC interaction, and battles. Probably be about 1/3, 1/3, 1/3 split for that type of stuff, though that will be different, as I will say here. Battle system is pseudo real-time. Meters will fill up for action, and time stops when an action is taking place, so the player is choosing an action. And there's going to be different difficulty settings available here, because I'm making this a bit more accessible to people who don't usually play games like this. So the first is the normal difficulty. There is combat in that, though the player's level will scale to the enemy if they're under-leveled, so that effectively removes any grinding. And if you just wanted to blow through the game while still going through the combat, you can do that. Then there's a veteran difficulty, which is more of a traditional JRPG setup. There's full combat, full flavor, there's no assists and leveling, though there are in-game items that I'm planning for that if you don't want to have random battles, you can put on an item on your character and that will eliminate random battles while you have it on, and you can take it on and off as you please. And then the third, which is probably going to be the most controversial here, is casual, which is no combat at all. The pivotal battles will still be in the battle engine, but they'll be scripted out. So you'll still see these big boss fights, but you won't have any control of them. They'll be pretty short, but they'll still show some of the cool boss fights I've planned out, but no player interaction is required for them. So it removes all of the people who just want to see the story or just go through it and not be frustrated at all with trying to learn some of these. It's kind of complicated RPG mechanics that these people don't have to do that. So that's why I'm putting that in there. All the cutscenes are going to be in-engine, though not voice. That's largely to save space, because if I have to make rendered movies for all this stuff, it's going to greatly increase the size of the app. And since it's in-engine, I can do some stuff with interactivity during cutscenes, like moving the camera around, having alternate camera angles, things like that. So players aren't just sitting there watching something happen. You actually have an active say in what happens, and that also can lead to like some QTE events. So there's that. So now unique challenges that I'm working on multiple platforms here. The iPhone and iPod are essentially the same aspect ratio, 3:2. Their screen sizes are a little bit different in some cases, though the resolution can vary greatly. The normal ones are 480 by 320, but the new iPhone 4 is 960 by 640. So I have to account for that. It's essentially doubling the amount of space I have to work with for resolution. So there's that. And then the iPad is 4:3, and this is 1024 by 768. And since it's all going to be in the same binary, I have to account for that. So the same UI that works for this also has to work for this. So that's going to be fun. I've already spent a lot of time working on how to do that. Especially for like camera framing for cutscenes, like there's going to be extra space in some of these parts, or things are going to have to be cut off, or cameras moved, so I'm going to have to account for that in all of the camera work I'm doing. And then not to mention that the Android ports, this can either be 320 by 480, 480 by 800, or 480 by 854, and there's actually more resolutions. So this is actually a little bit wider than an iPhone screen. So that's going to have to be accounted for too. And then the PC and Mac port, there's all kinds of different aspect ratios and things there. Not even going into like the iFinity and surround sound stuff, where you have all kinds of monitors off to the side. But that's all going to be unique challenges, and I've been working pretty hard on the game so far. A lot of the stuff is still being programmed by me. My philosophy is to get it working first and then make it pretty. So right now I'm still doing all the battle system, getting all that working. It essentially looks like a spreadsheet right now, but hey, you gotta do that if you want to get it to work. So I think that'll wrap up this first video blog for the RPG, and stay tuned for more details later.